Hey everyone, this is Music Tech Help Guy, and today I'm going to be calibrating my home studio, which is essentially just a home office, and I recently installed some acoustic foam. However, the room is not professionally treated like a real studio. To do this, I'm going to be using the Sonarworks XREF20 measurement microphone and the Reference 4 software, also from Sonarworks. The key to this is that we're not altering the acoustics of the space, but rather altering the frequency spectrum of the signal coming out of my speakers. Essentially, this calibration makes the signal you hear more accurate and flat, and removes unwanted coloration produced from my studio speakers themselves, or the coloration produced by the acoustics of the room that they're playing in. And it also works for headphones too. The Reference 4 software has a bunch of pre-made profiles for most brands and models of studio headphones. This will make almost any pair of headphones have a flat response. The idea behind this is that if your speakers or headphones are producing, say, an unwanted boost of lows, then you might undercompensate for that boost in the mix, thinking that you have plenty of bass in that range, when in reality you're hearing the additional coloration of your speakers in the room. Likewise, you can have a frequency area that's lacking. You might overcompensate in that range. So let's get into this. There's 3 modules to the Reference 4 software. There's a DAW plugin that could be added as your last plugin on your master fader. There's a system-wide app that calibrates all outgoing audio. And then there's the room measurement software that creates a custom calibration profile for your room and your speakers. If you're like me and you have 2 pairs of speakers on your desk, you can create a calibration profile for each pair, although in this video I'll only be calibrating the outer pair. So the first thing I'll do is download and install the Reference 4 software. Then I'm going to type in my microphone's specific ID number to download its own custom calibration profile. Next, let's open up the Reference 4 software to calibrate the room. The measurement mic is a condenser mic, so it requires phantom power. We want to make sure that direct monitoring is off. You only want to use one audio interface for the input and output to the speakers, and make sure that the interface's sample rate is set to 44.1 kHz. Next, I'll load up the specific mic calibration that I downloaded earlier. This is the .sw mic file in the folder that was downloaded. Next, we'll select the input that the mic is in, and test to make sure we're getting signal. Next, I'll select the output device that the speakers are hooked up to, and you can play a test track to ensure that the audio is coming through.
Please adjust amplifier volume. My voice should sound in normal conversation volume. Left speaker. Right speaker.
Next, you'll be prompted to adjust the mic's sensitivity by placing the mic in your listening position. Your best mix position is always going to be at an equilateral triangle with your speakers. I recommend making sure to put the mic on a stand as well, as it'll make the whole process a lot easier. After clicking the arrow button, it'll play a few test tones to measure the mic's sensitivity. If it's too low or too high, it'll prompt you to adjust the mic's gain on your interface. Next, you'll be prompted to measure the distance between the speakers by placing the mic very close to the mid-range driver of the left speaker. Next, repeat the process for the right speaker, and the Reference software will extrapolate the distance between the 2 speakers based on the test tones. And it's pretty damn accurate too, although if you need to fine-tune the dimensions, you can opt to do this as well, so break out your tape measure and double check. The next test will determine the distance between the speakers and the listening position. As you can see, my listening position isn't quite at an equilateral triangle with the speakers, but that's mainly because my outer pair of speakers is really wide, while my inner pair fits perfectly into that equilateral triangle. However, this less than optimal seating position is compensated for in the calibration profile. And finally, this takes us to the measurement phase, where we'll actually calibrate a profile at the listening position. This process is actually 24 separate measurements at 24 locations around the listening position. When I did it, I was changing the mic position around at about 5 to 8 inch movements that cover the entire seating area. Test tones will play throughout the process to extrapolate the mic position and show you when you've moved the mic to the correct spot. After the whole process is done, it shows the frequency response curve of the measurement of your room. In my case, it looks like I have a big bass spike in the 80 Hz range, a dip at around 120 Hz, another spike between 250 and 400 Hz, and a dip between 500 and 900 Hz. I'll save this as a calibration profile that I can later load in the DAW plugin or the system-wide app. I'm going to use the DAW plugin for this in Logic, so I've loaded up the Sonarworks plugin as my last plugin on my master output, and I've loaded up the calibration profile that I saved earlier. If you're working on headphones, you can also switch to headphones mode and choose a calibration profile for your specific model of headphones. You can choose a flat response curve, a custom 2 dB tilt, or other predefined curves. This reference curve is the target curve that your calibration is shooting for. Let's give this a listen with it bypassed, and then I'll A/B the calibration. So this song was completely mixed already before the calibration, and when I kick in the calibration, the mix sounds way worse. You don't keep the Sonarworks plugin on when you bounce your mix. That's not the goal here. You bypass this plugin when you bounce your mix. The goal here is to point out the flaws in your speakers and in your acoustic space. I can definitely tell that when I mixed the song without calibration, I was undercompensating for bass and mid-range due to the spikes at 80 Hz and around 350 Hz. This resulted in a thinner, more brittle mix when the calibration was turned on. Having this calibration available to me from the start of this mix could have prevented these problems, but at least now I have the chance to go back and revise the mix to sound great with the calibration profile. Room calibration is probably something that is a bit intimidating to some people, but Sonarworks has really done a great job of demystifying it and creating a really easy to use set of tools to get the job done. And this makes even less than optimal spaces like my home office studio sound great. But it's not just a tool for the home studio, it can be used for pro studios as well. If you like this video, please leave it a like and subscribe to the channel to see more content like this. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.